Good morning and welcome to the news segment of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. I have seen that the media practically all over is biased. The old concepts of objectivity, fair play are no longer there. Not only that, but the media also now indulges in half-baked truths, distortions, misinformation. In fact, the political agenda is carried out in full force. It's a crusade against honesty and truth. And recently, the news came that the rebel media is proposing to hold a symposium, a webinar on, and this is very condemnable. The statement was the subject is, as it is, India's colonization of Kashmir. Now, the very basis of this so called webinar or symposium is suspect. If you look at the history of India, it has never been a colonizing country. At one time, it was having trade with all over the world, its strongest navy in the Chola time. And before that, even they were trading with the West Asia, with the Middle East, with Greece, with Latin America, Mexico, Peru. But they never colonized them. The religious preachers left India, traveled all over the world, and the temples of Vishnu have been found in Kazakhstan, but they never colonized, never ruled. As a matter of fact, India has been colonized by the others. And reality is that colonization concept is typical of the Western countries and the Middle Eastern countries. Chinese tried to colonize during the time of Ming Dynasty, but they were not very successful in colonizing others. So they shifted from political colonization to economic colonization, but India never did that. So to say that Kashmir is being colonized is historically wrong. Then it's factually wrong because Kashmir is and was a part of India. Under the Indian Independence Act passed by the British Parliament, the provinces had a right to accede to either India or Pakistan or remain independent. And the ruler of Kashmir signed an agreement of accession, the instrument of accession with India, Hari Singh. And when Maharaja Hari Singh signed it, in issue of magnanimity and to show their democratic credentials, Indian government said, yes, you as a ruler have signed this agreement, but we must take into consideration the will of the people, which has been misconstrued as plebiscite. Will of the people was expressed through the various elections to Jammu and Kashmir Parliament, later on turned into assembly, which passed resolution after resolution stating that they have acceded to India, they're an integral part of India. So where is the concept of colonization? The whole thing smacks of a sustained anti-India tirade based on slander, misinformation, dishonesty, calumny, and mischief. It is also calculated to destroy the peace and harmony that prevails in that province. Before I blame rebel media, let me look at who are the people behind this. It's not a rebel media. Rebel media is the means of the webinar, is being arranged by a group of organizations that have always been anti-India and anti-truth. Look at the first thing. The person who is apparently responsible, apparently I'm saying, is Bianca Mugnevi. She is director of the Canadian Foreign Policy Institute. I tried to look at her LinkedIn profile, and when I opened her profile, there's no experience, no education, nothing. So either it's a fake profile or she's just a mouthpiece or a cover, a projection to show that, well, look here, this is somebody who is objective. Now, another thing, she's a director of the Canadian Foreign Policy Institute, and there's no other office bearer. When you go to the site of the Foreign Policy Institute, which is the main sponsor and the main organizer under Rebel Media, there is absolutely no mention of any other office bearer except Bianca. And the institute is in Calgary, but she is based in Montreal, Quebec. What does that show? That this is just a postal address and she is a conduit for carrying out the dictates of the masters. The very fact that some papers are published, but no names of the office bearers, no board of directors, no board of, and then they're getting funding from the government of Canada. The second group, which is organizing Canadians for Peace and Justice in Kashmir. Peace and justice in Kashmir. And who are the Canadians? Since when are the Canadians responsible, are liable for establishing peace in Kashmir and giving justice in Kashmir? The Indian judiciary is supposed to be one of the finest. All its flaws being there, I don't deny it, and I'm going to take up the sum of the flaws tomorrow morning. But they have ordered, it was Indian judiciary which ordered the release of people like Farooq Abdullah, Omar Abdullah, and facilitated the release of many more political workers. So how can they establish peace there when they are in fact instigating communal warfare? And when I looked at the website of this Canadians for Peace and Justice in Kashmir, there are no details, and the only thing they deal is with Kashmir. And now imagine, Kashmir has many parts. It's Kashmir Valley, it is Gilgit, it is Hunza, it is Ladakh, it's Jammu, and it has Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Now, there's not a single word about Gilgit, Hunza, or Pakistan occupied Kashmir. That clearly shows that this group is sustained by Pakistan for propaganda purposes. And it's a mouthpiece of either ISI or Pakistan government or some other interested parties, but it's not an honest broker. And then there's no website of this Canadian for Peace and Justice in Kashmir. It has a Facebook page and it has Twitter, but no website. Now imagine in these days of internet, an organization which claims to have such high sounding ideals, they don't have a website. Then there are two other organizations like that: Canadian Palestine Association, Vancouver, and Semidon Palestinian Prisoners Network. The very fact that these are the Palestinian organizations, what connection they have with Kashmir? Again, the names do not denote the reality, and the names clearly show their affiliation, not their honesty, not the fair mindedness, not the fair play that's promised. Then one of the speakers is Malvika Kasturi. Do you know who she is? She is a product of JNU, which is a hotbed of anti-India brigade. They call in India, this is called Tukre Tukre gang. That means cut India into pieces. And Malvika did her MA and MPhil from JNU. The upbringing, the training of Malvika in JNU, her being brain having been washed in JNU by the anti-national elements, is clearly not biased towards fair play and honesty. These were in fact the people who said about the convicted terrorist, hanged terrorist Ajmal Khan, that they are sorry that the killers of Ajmal are still alive. They wanted to kill the judiciary, the police officers, the executioners who had sentenced him to death. Then there is another person, Aziza Kanji. He's a director. She is a director of programming at Noor Cultural Center, a Muslim institute. And then they say very clearly, it's a Muslim cultural center based in GTA. Now, all of them have direct or indirect affiliation, either with Muslims, but then from where the money comes? It comes from Wahhabi sources, donations by that, and some funding by the government because they pose as charity organizations. Whether they are or they are not, I'm not going into that. But this is it. Now, where the rebel media come. Rebel media is a rabid media for anti-liberal. I'm no lover of liberal policies in India, you know it. But this is rabidly anti-liberal. So anything to beat the liberal government is good enough for them. And what to do? They say that the government of Canada is not doing anything in Kashmir. Now tell me, Kashmir is an internal matter of India. What the government of Canada can do? Has government of Canada done anything for the real pro issue like Chinese having imprisoned 1 million Uyghur Muslims? And even these organizations, these half a dozen organizations which are there, have they raised a single voice against China's imprisoning over 1 million Uyghur Muslims? These people whose heart bleed for the Muslims of Kashmir, why are they quiet about that? Especially when there's no judiciary to take care of them, no press to take care of them, while in India, press and judiciary are all very, very vocal about the human rights of everybody. What have they done? What has the government done for the exploitation of the Hong Kong people by the Chinese government? Why this differential in the policies? At least the government of Canada has kept its equidistance from Hong Kong and from Kashmir. So the whole drama being enacted is in fact a sustained political program to vitiate the environment in Kashmir, to blame India. And then this gives rise to a suspicion that is this not being promoted, maybe even funded by ISI or other anti-India regimes? Let's not forget that rebel media is not funded with the government of Canada. So they have a growth against government of Canada. And if the funds come from somewhere else, they'll be happy. Whenever they release a press, they want donations. So maybe these groups have donated to rebel media for this symposium. I'm not sure. I don't know. But that suspicion is there. The whole thing, if we look at the background of the people and the organizations which are organizing it, is suspect. The whole facade of having a seminar on colonization of Kashmir. Colonization is tomorrow, they'll be saying colonization of Nunavut by Canada, or colonization of Quebec by Canada, or colonization of Hawaii by USA. What ridiculous stupidity. Absolutely rank stupidity, if not lunacy. These groups and individuals have an axe to grind. They are neither honest, nor fair minded, nor objective. And I don't want them to be. They have their own agenda, they're welcome to it. But do they have, and does rebel media have any locus standi, any integrity to question something which is internal affair of another country, while at the same time they are quiet about killing of Kushagi, killing of Parda-clad women in Iran, killing of Shias and Sunnis, killing of Ahmadiyya, the teacher being killed because he's an Ahmadiyya. Why those things are not being raised, but only the Kashmir issue is being raised, which is a pure internal matter, as already been accepted. Even the Indian Muslim politicians do not say that Kashmir is not a part of India. There might be disagreement about the mode of administration and governance, and the recent bifurcation of Jammu and Kashmir is basically a mode of governance has changed. The state has been divided into two parts because one part was not being looked after. And in this process, thousands of kilometers of road have been constructed, education facilities have been provided, medical facilities have been upgraded, and whatnot. It's a travesty of equity, honesty, fair play. And I wish that the media opens its eyes and does the job which it is meant for, to inform, not to misinform, to present matters objectively, not subjectively, not in a prejudiced manner, not to promote disharmony and fight. And that's what these people are doing. Would they ever wake up to their responsibility? I hope so, but I'm afraid it may not happen because they are ruled by avarice, greed, and self interest. And also, the promoters, they are not shamed by when the reality is exposed, rather, rather they try to be brazen faced. And that's a tragedy that we are facing today. Thank you.